Swadikap, good morning and thank you for joining us on Newsline for Wednesday, September 3rd, 2014. I'm Surabhan Lautaranarit. Welcome to today's segment of Thailand Moves Forward, broadcasting live on NBT and Radio Thailand FM 88. In today's top story, the Cabinet is expected to outline the government's agenda for the coming session after they have been officially sworn in. Now on to today's headlines. The first Prayut Chan-o-cha Cabinet meeting will likely take place on September 9th before the government delivers a policy statement to the National Legislative Assembly, or NLA. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha said the cabinet would work immediately after it's sworn in. On September 2nd, the spokesperson of the Army, Colonel Sirijan Ngathong, said Prime Minister Prayut ordered a cabinet meeting room at Government House prepared before September 9th, where the first cabinet meeting would likely take place. General Prayut also assigned Deputy Minister of Transport Akom Termpithiyapaisit to work on the government's policy statement with a focus on the economy and quality of life of the people. The Premier said the policy statement would use simple and direct-to-the-point language for easy understanding. Prime Minister and Chief of the National Council for Peace and Order, or NCPO, General Prayut Chan-o-cha, has instructed NCPO officials to finish all important tasks prior to the announcement of the new government's policies. While chairing the latest NCPO meeting at the Royal Thai Army headquarters, General Prayut ordered all working units to expedite their operations. He stressed the need for urgent missions to be accomplished by the time the new cabinet begins duty. Once the government policies are declared, the Premier said the NCPO's roles will be adjusted to become more subdued, with its main focus placed on the maintenance of internal security. Some of the urgent tasks that need to be accelerated are the protection of natural resources and environment, increase of both locals and foreigners' understanding of Thailand's situation, facilitation of investors' transactions, establishment of agricultural training centers across the country, and drafting of laws to prevent corruption and narrow social gaps. General Prayut added that a framework for the cooperation between the NCPO and the Cabinet will be laid out in the near future. Regarding the martial law, he has assigned the commander of the Army Region 1 to assess the overall situation in the country and submit a report to the NCPO in order for a complete or partial lifting of the law to be considered accordingly. Head of the National Council for Peace and Order, or NCPO, General Prayut Chan-o-cha, has stated that he is pinning his hopes on the National Reform Council and the Constitution Drafting Committee, which will have to work together in building a better future for Thailand. Kun Niranut Traijakwanit has more.
In his weekly televised public address, General Prayut called for the tackling of all problems faced by Thailand, especially the reduction of social conflicts and disparities. In the second phase of the NCPO roadmap, the National Reform Council, which will be formed soon, will offer suggestions to the Constitution Drafting Committee for the drafting of a new permanent constitution. General Prayut urged the National Reform Council to prioritize various proposals for all aspects of reform in accordance with the time frame. He said that a great number of people had applied for selection as members of the National Reform Council. General Prayut pointed out that the success of the reform process depends chiefly on the people, and that NCPO could not insist on the implementation of all issues. He also thanked local administrative organizations for their cooperation in moving towards the reform process. These organizations need further improvements as they are close to local people who would benefit from these efficient operations. During the reform period, he said, the government will administer the country with transparency and fairness, and it will do the best to reduce the hardships of people. Concerning the formation of the cabinet, he urged the people not to worry about the inclusion of military officers as member of the cabinet. General Prayut explained that the number of officers in the cabinet is not a problem. The point is how to tackle the country's problems, since security and peace and order remain national issues. If the cabinet members did not perform efficiently, he would change them. A cabinet reshuffle could be made any time if necessary. Those who are found to be corrupt will go to jail. Therefore, there is nothing for people to fear. Miranutra Jagwanit reporting.
At the end of the National Reform Council, or NRC's, application period, the Election Commission, or EC, reports the number of candidates as 6,729. The qualification process is now underway, while the final selection will be made by September 22nd. EC Secretary General Puchong Nutrawong stated that after the 20-day application process concluded yesterday, a total of 6,729 individuals were found to have been nominated for a seat in the NRC by nonprofit organizations. Out of all the applications received, nearly 4,000 were submitted to the central EC office and the rest to provincial offices throughout the country. In terms of the number of applications filed in each of the 11 fields of reform, the highest number was seen in education, followed by miscellaneous affairs, social affairs, local administration, and public health and environment. The least applications were tendered in the field of media. According to Mr. Puchong, the EC is currently cooperating with 14 other agencies in conducting qualification checks on the NRC nominees, with completion expected by September 12th. The qualified names will be forwarded to the selection committees in a bid to narrow down the candidates to 50 persons for each of the 11 reform areas, or 550 persons in total. The number of candidates representing each province will also be slashed to 5. By September 22nd, 250 of the finalists will be handpicked by the National Council for Peace and Order as NRC members, and their names are to be presented for royal endorsement by October 2nd. The National Legislative Assembly, or NLA, made known that the newly formed cabinet is expected to outline the government's agenda for the coming session after they have been officially sworn in. Thailand is now in the second stage of its national reform roadmap, which includes the formation of the new cabinet for national administration. General Prayut Chan-o-cha has named the interim cabinet on Monday, which has been primarily dominated by members of the army, to govern the country through at least a year of political reforms before he permits a general election. NLA Chief Whip Surachai Liengbullerchai noted that the cabinet will soon contact the NLA to set up a session to outline key policies for next year. The scheduling of the session into the NLA's agenda will take no more than 1 week. The NLA has recently drafted meeting regulations and will forward them to the NLA Whip for further consideration. The NLA has so far been deliberating security provision to royalty, the debt collection bill, and the budget bill for the 2015 fiscal year. The NLA committee in charge of the budget bill has assured that the budget allocation for the next fiscal year has been made in accordance with the government's economic development plan. Lieutenant General Chat Udom Titasari, spokesperson of the NLA's committee in charge of scrutinizing the 2015 budget bill, said that the committee's adjustment of the budgets of 19 ministries has been made to go along with the National Economic and Social Development Plan of the National Council for Peace and Order, while helping solve any problems experienced by the people. He said that the amount taken out from the proposed budget of each ministry was considered unnecessary and unaffordable. On Wednesday, the committee will file a report on the budget review to the NLA's main panel to go through before the 2015 fiscal budget bill goes to the second and third readings, which are expected to be completed within 2 days. Lieutenant General Chat Udom added that after the swearing-in of the new cabinet, General Prayut Chan-o-cha, the Prime Minister, will make his policy address before the NLA. Australia and Thailand have discussed the transition period agreement for Australians with babies carried by surrogate mothers in Thailand, following the scandal that broke out earlier this month involving illegal surrogacy services. Kun Arapha Choi Prasit has the details.
The Thai authorities are set to toughen surrogacy law after an Australian couple was accused of abandoning their surrogate son because he has Down syndrome. Thailand is expected to enforce a full ban on commercial surrogacy services by the end of this year. Permanent Secretary of Foreign Affairs Siyasak Phongketkaew made known that he and his Australian counterpart, Mr. Peter Varghese, have mutual concerns over humanitarian aspects of surrogacy services in the kingdom. Since his arrival in Thailand, Mr. Varghese has held talks with representatives of the Ministry of Justice, Social Development and Human Security, and Foreign Affairs over the pressing issue. The Australian Foreign Affairs Permanent Secretary said Australia will respect and abide by the soon-to-be drafted legislation Thai authorities will pass later this year. Australia is also keen on ensuring that legal requirements will be easy to implement and will operate smoothly. Currently, there are around 150 surrogacy cases where Australian couples have already employed agencies to provide them with surrogate babies. Concerns have been mounting for Australian couples with children already born but were unable to leave Thailand amid likely restrictive departure measures, as Thai officials required court approval to allow the families to leave. According to reports, surrogate babies carried to terms by Thai mothers are expected to obtain DNA identification documents before they can depart Thailand for biological parents in Australia. The Thai ministry added that the new surrogacy law is set to strike the right balance between banning full-fledged commercial surrogacy services and helping couples who wish to have children by IVF treatment.
Yes, at the moment on the Thai side, it's in the process of drafting and to enact law on the prohibition of commercial surrogation. But of course, those agencies concerned would again bear in mind and trying to find the right balance between those in banning commercial surrogation and at the same time bearing in mind and being mindful of those who are genuinely would like to seek or desire IVF treatment in Thailand. So I think it's a very sensitive issue. It's a humanitarian issue, and it's trying to get the right balance for a fair treatment on all sides.
The issue of surrogacy grabbed front-page news after an Australian couple was accused of leaving behind a twin boy known as baby Gammy after it was found that he was suffering from Down syndrome, whereas his sister had departed Thailand. This is Arapha Choi Prasit reporting.
The Ministry of Public Health made known that a Thai woman who recently returned from West Africa is being tested for Ebola after exhibiting symptoms similar to that of the deadly virus. The ministry said a 24-year-old woman was suspected of being infected with Ebola after experiencing a high fever, a symptom of the often fatal virus. She is being quarantined in one of the ministry-appointed hospitals. The Department of Medical Sciences and other related units are running a blood test, and an official result will be unveiled on Thursday. Medical personnel tending to the patient have been instructed to wear a protective suit and to disinfect all equipment used in treating the patient. Countries around the world remain on high alert over the possible spread of Ebola from West Africa. Passengers and visitors from the region are being thoroughly screened at most airports. The Department of Industrial Works has launched a project to accommodate investment in the provinces with the potential to grow substantially in terms of industry. Deputy Director General of the Department of Industrial Works, Sakda Pankla, said the provinces included Kanchanaburi, Phetchaburi, and Suphanburi. The project was aimed at bringing industrial development to other provinces apart from Bangkok and its vicinity. The selected provinces were ready for industrial development due to their infrastructure, public utility, telecommunications, and logistics. The officials said they also had large markets for products. The project also seeks to prevent the problems caused by industrial expansion, such as congested population and pollution. The Department of Disaster Prevention and Mitigation made known that the floods in 18 provinces throughout the country have eased, but more storms and flash floods are still expected in many parts of Thailand. The department said a low-pressure cell over the lower parts of the north has brought heavy rains to many provinces. 18 provinces nationwide, such as Mae Hong Son, Sukhothai, and Chiang Mai, have been hit hard by the floods, which have killed 7 people and affected more than 8,000 households. Currently, all flood-hit provinces, except Phichit, Nakhon Sawan, and Nakhon Ratchasima, have recovered from the deluge. The National Disaster Warning Center also reported that during September 2nd to 3rd, flash floods and landslides are set to hit a number of northern, northeastern, and eastern provinces. Residents in these provinces have been told to be on high alert. The department has teamed up with the military and other related units to provide assistance to flood victims and to survey damages across the regions. The Stock Exchange of Thailand, or SET Index, yesterday concluded at 1,568.6 points, gaining 3.25 points with turnover of 41.37 billion baht. Asia Plus Assets analysts stated that the gain could be significantly bigger if new positive factors are being introduced to the market, while warning that the SET Index could take a dive if it faces a potent negative factor. According to the analysts, today's resistance level should be at 1,572 points, and the support level should be around 1,552 points. Yesterday's top trading stocks were Thai Military Bank, Demco Public Company, the recent Thai Agencies Public Company, Bangkok Bank, and Siam Commercial Bank. In today's segment of Now or Never, Dr. Yongyut Mayalab, spokesperson of the National Council for Peace and Order, or NCPO, will talk about the progress of the NCPO's operation to solve migrant labor issue. Let's have a look.
Welcome to Now or Never, the program that updates you on the policies and developments of the National Council for Peace and Order, or NCPO. The time is now for all Thais to unite, to move the country forward, and to push for reform in all dimensions to strengthen Thailand in a sustainable way. On the progress of migrant worker registration, Thai authorities have now completed registering more than 800,000 migrant workers across the country. These migrant workers include those temporarily allowed to stay in the kingdom and have been given work permits according to Article 13(2) of the Royal Act of the Work of Migrant Workers, BE 2551, and the Cabinet decision of the 6th of August 2013, whose work permits expired on the 11th of August 2014. Such workers should therefore report to the one-stop service migrant workers registration centers located in the provinces in which they are working by the end of October 2014. At present, Thai authorities are collaborating with neighboring countries such as the Kingdom of Cambodia, the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, and the Lao People's Democratic Republic in preparing and implementing nationality verification processes in order to correctly issue passports and other travel documents for those migrants. A huge number of migrant workers registered will not achieve anything if migrant workers are going off in all directions without a clear record of their work history and status and whereabouts in the country. Also, several businesses should strengthen and improve their operation systems to accommodate these workers. This also means that while developing their businesses through the use of new machines, new tools, or new technology, aside from increasing the number of skilled laborers, there also needs to be personnel training and development to go along with them as well. On this matter, the NCPO especially encourages businesses to take on these skilled workers or professionals who have trained in Thailand so that they have the opportunity to work in the country. Otherwise, growing international demand for such skilled workers will subsequently lead them being employed elsewhere, thus leaving Thailand with unskilled and unqualified workers. Registration will be available for current migrant workers only until the 31st of October 2014. After that, there will be a compulsory nationality verification process which will be conducted and completed by the 31st of March 2015. สวัสดีครับ
And that brings us to the end of our first segment of Thailand Moves Forward. Before we take a quick break, let's take a look at the exchange rates and commodity prices.
Open the world of information. Embrace public participation. Present Thainess to the world. New dimension of the government's public relations. The 81st anniversary of Public Relations Department. Creative media for society and mobilizing Thailand towards the ASEAN community.
Welcome back to Newsline, and now let's take a look at what's happening around the world. The Islamic State yesterday released a video purporting to show the beheading of American hostage Steven Sotloff as the militant group raised the stakes in its confrontation with Washington over U.S. airstrikes on its fighters in Iraq. Sotloff, a freelance journalist, was kidnapped in Syria in August 2013. Sotloff's mother, Shirley, appealed on August 27th in a videotaped message to Islamic State's self-proclaimed Caliph Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi for her son's release. In the video, Sotloff describes himself as paying the price for the U.S. intervention in Iraq with his life. The purported executioner appeared to be the same British accented man who appeared in an August 19th video showing the killing of American journalist James Foley, and it showed a similar desert setting. In both videos, the captives wore orange jumpsuits. The United States is taking the Islamic State militants far more seriously now than it did 6 months ago, when Obama told the New Yorker magazine that they were the JV team, which is short for junior varsity, and means they are not the best players on the field. A tabby cat called Sally is being hailed as a hero after she saved her owner from his burning home. 49-year-old Craig Jeeves said that the quick-thinking feline managed to wake him up when the house caught fire. Jeeves said he adopted Sally from a cat's home several years ago, and now she had returned the favor. The fire service said he was lucky to have got out alive. Jeeves was treated for smoke inhalation at the scene and will be staying with neighbors until he is able to rebuild the property. And that's it for today's edition of Newsline. If you have any comments or suggestions, please feel free to email us at newsline.nbt@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Facebook. Simply type in NNT, or check out our website, thainews.prd.go.th/newsin. And for now, we're going to say goodbye with some footage of Suan Nong Nut in Pattaya. I'm Surapan Lautharanarit. Thank you for joining us and have a great day. สวัสดีครับ